I'ma blow up. Yeah.
Right after a couple of former, I can say that BARUUK is a frame that is well designed, but needs some improvements to make it endgame worthy. Hello team, and welcome to another video. Today, I will be sharing my first impression, and a couple of fun builds that you can use for this new frame. Okay, let's not waste any time and begin this video. To begin with, let me try to explain each of his ability, starting from Elude. This is a channeling ability that lets you dodge all incoming projectiles. To dodge from any angles, you need to have at least 205% range. It may sound overpowered at first, but this ability has its weaknesses. First of all, the evasion only works when you are not attacking, and secondly, you can still be damaged by things like bleed and knocks and proc, and also, you can also be knocked down by enemies. Remember, it can only evade projectiles, which basically means that other damage sources can still kill you. To all players calling for a nerf on this ability, just shut it. You are only embarrassing yourself. This ability is not that overpowered at all. Before we proceed to the next ability, I like to share a piece of advice. Knockdown is the worst enemy of this ability, as it could mean instant death. Try to stay away from enemies that can knock you down, or better yet, try to incorporate the sure-footed, or even the prime version of this mod on your build if you can. His second ability is called Lull, and this basically slows and put enemies to sleep. The slow takes effect first, and right after a couple of seconds, those enemies that are caught in the wave will be put to sleep. This ability is great. It has a relatively long range, that if you mod this frame with lots of range, then probably you can lock down a room full of enemies. In addition, it puts the enemies to sleep, so most likely, they will be open to finisher attacks. You can use weapons like Cracked Dark Dagger against enemies that are sleeping, or you can even use your fourth ability to deal massive amount of damage. The next one is called Desolate Hands, and it's basically a disarm and damage reduction ability. It can be compared to Nova's Null Star. The only difference is, aside from the damage, it also disarms the weapons of enemies. Now, some are saying that the damage reduction also works like the Null Star, and it depletes after you lost a dagger or that floating thing around you, but I think it don't work that way. I think that you will have the 90% damage reduction for as long as you have a charge floating around you. Aside from that, the daggers will jump to allies within range, providing damage reduction, but will continue to seek enemies within their range. And lastly, the seeking range of the daggers will be doubled once you have Elude active. Now before we proceed to the fourth and final ability, let's discuss first about his passive. Now this circle, right above your ability icons, is called Restraint, which needs to deplete so you can activate your fourth ability. Your first three ability can help erode this meter right over here. Every projectile that you dodge while Elude is active will erode 0.6% of your restraint, while it will deplete for about 0.81% for each enemy affected by your second ability. Lastly, your Desolate Hands can erode 1.6% per enemy disarmed. Once you have depleted a portion of your restraint meter, you can now cast your fourth ability, and you can keep this up while your fourth is active, by simply using all of your other abilities. By the way, Restraint also grants this frame damage reduction, and it will have higher damage reduction percentages the more it is stacked. Now let's talk about his fourth ability, called Serene Storm. Long story short, this ability will let you play as an airbender. The first time I had unlocked this ability, I was really impressed and enjoy ragdolling enemies, but when I begun to mod the exalted weapon, Desert Wind, and then tried a couple of times on MOT, I begun to lost interest. If there's one ability of this frame that needs fixing, then this is that ability. When you first look at the stats of the weapon, then you can quickly compare it to the stats of Valky's Exalted Claws. Only difference is, Valky's talons have higher total damage, but this exalted weapon doesn't work like Valky nor Wukong's exalted weapon. Instead, it's more like Excalibur's exalted blade, and you can hit enemies by the exalted fist, and those waves coming out from it. Now that's the problem. The stats are pretty wrong, and the mods that actually work on the exalted fist don't actually work for the waves. For example, if I put Shattering Impact here, this will only work when I'm actually hitting the enemy with my exalted fist, and not with those waves. Drifting Contact also don't work on the waves, which is pretty annoying. And hell, even Life Strike and Healing Return don't work on it. What does work are these mods, and based from a couple of tests, these are the mods that can give you enough damage to go against high level enemies with no armor. Against armored units, well, it's totally a different story. This frame's exalted weapons suck eggs while dealing against heavily armored units, and in conclusion, it will not even be viable in high-level sortie missions. I really wish Digital Extremes will make some changes on this frame's fourth ability, as it's really underwhelming in high-level missions. Buff it not just by a bit, but make it great, as this is really a fun ability to use. Other than that, I have no complaints for this frame. His other abilities are really awesome, it's just his fourth that needs some love. Before you leave, here's the build that I am currently using for this frame. Take note that this build may change in the future, as I'm hoping that Digital Extremes will make some changes on this frame. But for now, here's my current mod setup. Okay, I know for the fact that this frame has a low health pool, and you might say that it's not worth putting umbral mods on it. But, hear me out. Do remember that he has damage reduction features, and the only way to take advantage of that is to have lots of health and shield. In addition, these umbral mods does give some pretty good power strength bonus. That is why I choose these to be in my build. Sure-footed is a personal preference. You can choose to equip it or even the primed version, to avoid being knocked down, or you can have adaptation on this slot. This mod synergies well with the damage reduction of this frame, especially when your elude ability is down. And yes, I have overextended and cunning drift to get that 205% range, enough to have that 360 angular defense for elude. The next mod is primed continuity, basically to counter the negative effect of fleeting expertise, and as well as provide duration for my abilities, especially for my channeling ability. This build is really efficient when it comes to casting abilities, because of that 175% efficiency. But, if you think you need more energy pool, and happen to haven't got umbral vitality just yet, then you can tweak this build. Simply remove the mod on this slot, and replace vitality, and then add primed flow in the mix. And lastly, the aura slot is a personal preference. You can choose any aura that you like. I just have enemy radar because I like seeing the enemies on my map, and cunning drift is more important in the Exilus mod slot compared to vigilante pursuit or enemy sense. Like I have said, this is my current build, and it may change once Digital Extremes make some changes. But rest assured, I will post an updated build for this frame, once we have the final form of BARUUK. So that's it. I hope that you find this video informative. By the way, our Mesa Prime giveaway is still going on. Simply visit our Discord server to join the giveaway. Also, you can follow me on Twitter if you want. All links are on the video description below. Lastly, don't forget to subscribe if you want to see more informative Warframe videos from us. Just don't forget to turn on notifications so you won't miss an upload. Thank you so much for watching. Squad Leader signing off. I'ma blow up. Yeah.